What in God's name is going on down here? Hi. Kicking dust hoses around. Last year for Christmas, I made, oh boy, probably 12 of these things, maybe more, I don't remember. It's your basic decorative lantern. I saw a picture of it on the internet, probably Pinterest. I'm not proud. I'm on Pinterest. Good ideas there. And I said, hey, I can make that. And it would make a great gift. I'm probably going to have to make another one for my wife because this is not the color that she likes. We've talked about this. So I'll probably have to make another one. It's a simple build. It really is. And these things will sell if that's what you do. Okay. You just go to Walmart. What is that? Spaghetti. Sits on the dining room table. And if I could see, you go to Walmart and get you a little light up candle situation, battery operated, because disclaimer, it's made out of flammable material. It's real simple to build. It'll sell. Our church, two churches have fundraisers coming up. And so I'm going to build 20 of these. I'll show you how I do one, and then you can batch these things out. Just cut all your pieces at one time. You're good to go. So I'm going to go put this away so I don't mess it up and get into trouble. And then we'll get into building this thing. The great thing about this project is you can build this out of anything. Whatever kind of wood you got is fine. I'm building mine out of oak because, I got the sled out. You're going to need two pieces. If you're building it like I build mine, I make my bases 5" by 5". They have to be square, whatever square you want to make it. 5" gives me enough room to put wow, the wind just blew over my garbage can. Thank God it's empty. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, 5" by 5". I use approximately a 1" square spindle riser. And 5" gives me enough room to have 4 of those, one on each corner, and still get a 2.5 to 3" candle in between them to get in there. Anyway, so I'm going to square this up, and then I have set a block up at 5". You make it whatever size you want, as long as it's square, because I've never in my life seen a rectangle lantern. So it's a beautiful day out. I don't know why. It got to be windy. So I'll go ahead and get these cut up, and then we'll move on to the next part of the show. Okay, next you need 1 4" square. And then the final piece for the top is 3, I think. I'll have to go in and measure it. I'm pretty sure it's 3. If I was a smart man, I'd have just gone ahead and got all my ripping done. I'm not bouncing back and forth. I'm not thinking ahead. I'm already thinking I got to build 20 more of these things, but that's okay. It'll be fine. Just remember that, folks. It'll be fine. So I'll cut the 4 up, and then I'll go find out what the width of the top is, the square of the top is, and I'll go ahead and cut that up too, and then that way I'm not, bouncing back and forth. I have this set for sled height. So we'll go ahead and get these cut up, and we're ready to start adding accent and putting it together. So that's next. So right off the bat, I messed up. I went in and measured, and the top is 2.5 by 2.5. That's what I make mine because there's accents and it just kind of flows into each other. And that's great. Came out here and cut 1.5 inches. Dum, 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 dum. 2.5. We talked about this. That's what we need. Anyway, I'll tell you when I mess up. I'm okay with that. Okay. Now it's just a matter of moving your stop block to where your next cut is. In my case, it's 4". I'm going to square this up, slide it over. Every one of my cuts will be at 4. I'm bleeding. I don't know why. It happens. So if you're using a sled, build yours better than I did. Okay. That's my pro tip of the day. Put a little bit of a notch at the bottom where it connects, and that gives the dust somewhere to go. I didn't do that. So every time I'm ready for a new cut, I got to do this. Jeez. Taking a breathalyzer test for crying out loud. Okay. Not that I would know anything about taking a breathalyzer test. Just my guess. Now, if you just wanted to put this together and just have a square top with a square top and a square, that's fine. You can do that. I like to add a chamfer, I think is what it's called. There's going to be an angle on each piece as it steps up. And I can do this on the router, but that's multiple passes, you know, because my bit's dull and otherwise it goes flying and we don't want that. I'll do it on a table saw. Set your blade to 45. This is a bit of a no-no, I guess, because the blade is angled towards the fence and that's, you know, kickback potential. I have big, beefy push block, which is going to save my life. I hope. We're going to put a chamfer on the 5-inch all the way around. Chamfer, chamfer, chamfer. Same with the 4-inch. I can't give you a measurement on this, okay? Eye it up. It may take 2 swipes. Get it to where you want it. I try to shoot for about half of my thickness of board. Am I there? I have no idea, okay? That's a technical part that I don't know. So I'm going to run it through, and if I like it, I'll go ahead and zing it around the rest of the way. If I don't, I will bump the fence in just a smidge. Take short bites at this, because next thing you know, you move it in an inch and you ain't got no board left. So let's try this and see what happens. So there you can kind of see what that's going to look like. You're going to have 45 here, 45 here. This piece will be centered on top of this one. And it just kind of, it gives it a little bit of an accent instead of just having a block and a block. We're going to do something to this piece too. That sits up on top of there. Pay no attention to the burn marks in the side. I'd have got those if I used the router too. Neither one of them felt comfortable for me. The table saw felt more comfortable than the router. So, okay. Okay, so this little guy here, he's going to get all kinds of stuff done to him. He don't even know what's coming to him. We need a groove in the bottom. I'm sure there's proper technical names for just, it's a groove. If you remember on the one I brought out and showed you, there is a piece of rope that comes up over. You can use anything for that. I found rope to be easier and cheaper. You can get brass rings and all kinds of cool stuff, but then you're into money. We don't want to be into money. This has a big gnarly chip right here. That's fine. I'm going to add a round over to this. I'm not going to chamfer that one. This one's going to have a round over it. Anyway, it needs a groove through the bottom for the rope to slide through, and we need to drill out a pretty sizable hole because you're going to tie a knot in either side of that rope, and that's what's going to hold it in place from slipping out. Tie the knot, slip it into that hole, glue it down, and then that rope can't come out. Anyway, we got a lot of stuff to do to this little guy. The rope I'm using, I think, is 1/4 inch. I think. I'll find out before I start ripping into stuff. I have some stuff now that I didn't have before that should make this easier. Last time I did it on my router table, And let me tell you why I'm afraid of my router table. Last time I used it for this project, the bit flew out while I was cutting a groove in this. So I have a dado stack now for my table saw, and I'll just set it for 1/4 inch, run this through at the height that I want it. It is so much easier. And for me, again, comfort. You gotta cut things that you don't want to be uncomfortable making a cut. That's how people get hurt. So for me, the dado set, it is blowing out there. Holy moly. Oh, I'm still standing. Anyway, you want to be comfortable in anytime you're using a power tool, because if you're not, it's dangerous. Now, is that to say don't respect the power tool? Absolutely not. The moment that you think you got it and you're complacent, it's going to come back to get you. So I'm going to get some stuff set up for this. The round over at the top is probably the last thing I'm going to do, because everything I need to do down here is easier without a round over. That's going to be the last thing I do. So I'll get all this set up and we'll get that cut, grooved, rabbet, rebate, slot, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, where the rope goes. That's what we're going to do next. So I was thinking about the order of operations. That's a fancy word, fancy phrase. Anyway, I decided that it would be easier to drill my holes first and then run it through the dado set. What I've done is mark the center of my board, the width of the blade that I'm using, and I'm drilling 2 holes. I set a stop on this that's not tape, so it will not drill all the way through. That's my only complaint about these blades, is that bad animal right there. It takes half of your depth. Again, Forstner bits. If you got them, use them. Put this in a clamp, folks, because there's no way you're going to be able to hold on to this little thing. In fact, I'm going to turbo crank that. There's not really any way you're going to be able to hold on to this while you're doing this. So don't be a hero. Put it in a clamp. Start a campfire with this thing. I really got to slow this down. So when all is said and done, it looks something like that. Oh, apparently the dust hose fell off of the table saw again. Wonderful. I recently read somewhere, sensationalized headline, why you should be running O-rings on your router bits. I don't, or at least I didn't before. I didn't read the article, if I'm being honest. Might have something to do with vibration. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Here's why I started using them, though. Because I've also read somewhere that you shouldn't bottom out your bit. I don't know what happens when you do that, but apparently somebody does. Somebody somewhere had something catastrophic happen that made them say, why you shouldn't, Anyway, here, back to the point. I put an O-ring on there because that assures me that it's not going to bottom out. And it takes me 2 hands. This is my Harbor Freight model. I don't have a fancy lift and all that. It takes me 2 hands to get that tightened up, and I can't keep the bit where I want it when I'm tightening it. So I put an O-ring on it. That keeps it from dropping all the way to the bottom. I can tighten it up. Life is easy and speeds things up in the long run. Or at least in my head it does. how tight do you guys tighten your router bits? Because that's something else that I read. Just make them snug tight. Don't crank them. This thing spins at some ungodly RPM. Terrifying, if I'm being honest. So, you'll excuse me if I over snug them. Okay, I'm gonna lift this up. What I have in here is a 1/4 inch roundover. No, it's not. It's a 3/8 roundover bit. Cheapest worst clamps that I have. That needs to come up a lot. So what is happening over here? Just, you'll be fine. Just stop. Golly Moses. Yeah, I'm gonna lift that up just a little bit. So there you can kind of get an idea as to what the top is gonna look like once it's all glued together. It's gonna be a chamfer, a roundover. Again, it just adds some accent to it. I think it makes it look nicer than just having it squared off, but you could do it either way you want, doesn't matter. So far, what we have is what's going to be our top and our bottom. Without anything else, what you got is a stack of pancakes. I could go for some pancakes. Anyway, we need to cut some spindles that are going to separate this. And looking at the one that I made at Christmas time, those were 10-inch length, and it kind of, I think the height of the candle is 4, I think. I don't know. It kind of, it works out. It sets a nice distance between the base and the top, and the candle and the fake flame, because you don't want a real flame. Remember, folks, you don't want a real flame. Flammable material we're working with here, not gasoline, it's wood. It'll burn. Fake candle. So, got the sled back out, and I'm just going to cut some spindles. These turned out to be, I think, 7/8 by 7/8. I think. Remember that happy accident where I cut the piece the wrong size earlier? Well, I just took that and cut these down to 7/8, and I can still use them, and it's not a waste of wood. So I'm going to get this set up and cut, and then we have to start figuring out how we're putting it together in a way that will not fall apart. Okay, that's next. Okay, I didn't mean to lie to you, but it happened. Is it a lie if you didn't mean to? I'm not sure how that works. We're not ready to start putting it together yet. After going back in and looking at, there's that 747 Fly again. I thought I got him. Anyway, when I went back in to look at the one that I made at Christmas time, what I noticed and forgot is that our spindle uprights have a roundover. Not end to end. They stop at about 1 inch. This is how I did mine. You can do them however you want. So I come down 1 inch, and then I start a roundover, and it ends at 1 inch. Okay, so what I've done is I put 2 stop blocks on my table. I'm not going to mess with the height. This is still the same height that I did the roundover on the very top cap. Basically, I'm just going to set that in there and guide that in. I'm going to come down here and stop. I'm going to pull it away. Looks good on paper. We'll see. Gotta find my glasses because this thing just throws chips everywhere. And there you go. Nice rounded spindle. Pay no attention to the burning. That's why we have sandpaper. That'll sand right out. But gives it a nice little accent. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so here's all of our pieces. No, top, bottom. I attached this with dowels. And so we got dowel thing. This is a Dowlet brand. It's not probably the best one on the market, but it's certainly not the worst. What I've done is I've put squares, 7/8, that's what this is, and just made an X, center punch the middle. That's where I have to drill for that dowel. Same with this. Those two are easy. This lines up. I'm using 5/16, I think. Sure, that's what we're going to go with. There we go. And that just clamps on there. And this is self-centering, so I don't need to worry about it as long as I'm hitting my center line in there. And it's good to go. Okay, so those are all drilled out. X marks the spot. If you are batching these out to take to a craft fair, or say you're planning on selling them, you want to make a bunch of them at one time, do all of your steps at one time. Cut all of your squares at one time. Drill all of your holes at one time. The reason for that is now I'm going to have to walk over there and take the drill bit out so that I can drill these. Now, if you're batching these out, drill all of these at one time. You can make 5, 10, however many you want. Just do all of the steps at one time. So I'm going to go ahead and get these drilled out, and we're almost ready to put it together. So setting your depth on the drill bit for this is a little bit trickier because you're going to want to measure up 3/4 because that's that's the depth of your dowel. But you have to take into account the thickness of the jig that you're using. So what I do is I just slide the drill bit in till it hits the wood. Then I measure up from here to here, my 3/4, and tape it there. That way I know when the tape hits the top of the jig, I'm 3/4 deep. That's where I want to be. So now that that's all done, I'm going to go ahead and drill these. On our top pieces, there is some blade burning, which makes sense. I mean, it's going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. I am going to bring them over to this. This is my rigid oscillating belt and spindle sander. Say that 5 times fast. I am not reshaping anything. Once that burn is gone, I'm done. Okay, got everything sanded. The other 2 pieces that make up the top, I went ahead and put stain on them. Reason being, they're going to be tough to stain with the rope installed and everything like that. So I went ahead and did a coat of stain on them. We can glue them together later. We're going to work on the top and the bottom and the spindles. Okay, gluing the spindles up. If you have any doubts as to whether your dowels are too long or not, I put a 60 grit on my sander and just sanded them down. Made sure they were completely under 3/4 because this isn't structural. Nobody's standing on top of this to reach the cookie jar. So all this has to do is center these and give a little bit of glue space to hold them together. That's all we're doing. There is a fly flying around here gonna make me crazy. Why do I know that? Because the first one was a nightmare. The first one was too long, had to pull it back apart. These things are super tight in here. And so, lesson learned. You just need another one, glue the cap on, and then we'll talk about that top over there and the rope and all that kind of stuff that we have to still deal with yet. Ooh, boy. Okay, we'll straighten that one up. Okay, I gotta get the gluing. And of course, when in doubt, clamp the snot out of it. That ain't going nowhere. Okay, this is all together. One thing I meant to point out to you that I didn't pay attention to myself, and this is just me. You can do it however you want. I like the grain for my base, my top, and my top to all be going the same direction. Apparently I got in a hurry when I was gluing this up, didn't pay attention to it, and now I have this one going this way and this one going this way. It's just me. It might just be a problem with me, but it's something I try to do. I cut a piece of rope, simply put a knot in either end, and that's going to set in here. These are the pieces I said were stained off camera. That's just going to fit in that hole. The rope is approximately 10 inches, and if I'm being honest, I might cut the next one 11, just to give me a little bit more of a loop up here. Although, that's not bad. So that goes into these holes. Make sure the rope is in the groove. And then this piece gets glued to this piece. Grain going the same way. I used to really stress about making sure it was exact. If you're batching these things out, you're the only one that's going to know if it's a 16th off. If it looks right, it is right. I'm going to coin that. If it looks right, it is right. So I'm going to glue this together and then glue this on here. And then we're down to finish sanding and stain. Guess what color this is getting? I'm going to do a variety of colors because since they're going to a sale, you never know what people want. So I'm going to do some of them lighter, some of them darker. I might even pull some of that really, really dark stain out that I don't like. Okay, so this is it's not glued on yet. That's the next step. I went ahead and I'm going to call it finish sanded it. It's all the sanding I'm going to do to it because I have to get this done. I'm leaving for vacation tomorrow, and this has to be done. And that will give me just enough time to get the rest of the ones done when I get back. If you look outside, the sun's shining. 5 minutes ago, it was spitting ice pellets. This is springtime in northwestern PA. If it looks right, it is right. Okay, I'm not going to measure this out. I put blue tape on here just to tell me where the top of the chamfer is because, again, the eyeballs ain't what they used to be. And I just need to know where that transition is so that I can line it up correctly. I'm just going to throw some glue on this. It looks like it's going to be about 1/4 inch all the way around. So now you can see how the rope handle and all that. So I'll glue this up. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. When you're sanding, sorry, I'll be right with you in a second. When you're sanding this up, okay, inevitably, or maybe it's just me, your pillars are not always going to match up, and you're going to have, it's going to be higher and lower in some spots. Sanding is the time to fix that, okay? No one's going to look at this and know that this might be a 16th or a 32nd different than this. No one's going to know. They just want to know that it's flat, smooth, like a baby's bottom, and it is. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this up, and then we're down to staining and coating it. You can coat this with whatever you want. I've used poly on them. I have used paste wax on them. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to use on this. So the glue is dry. Can't do that if it wasn't. Now we're just going to hit it with some stain. I don't stain the bottom. I guess I could, but I don't normally. You can if you want. You'll notice while I was waiting for the glue to dry, I went ahead and batched out a bunch of pieces because, again, I have 9 more of these to make and 19 total more to make. Getting in the middle of this thing is the toughest part, especially when you got big sausage fingers like me.
As it turns out, I called an audible and decided to go with the paste wax finish for a couple of reasons. I wanted more of the real wood feel, and poly wouldn't give that to me. It's a decorative piece, so wax will be just fine. I also didn't like the idea of trying to get a brush in between those spindles. I have a feeling when my wife sees this one, she's going to want it. It's her favorite stain color, and to be honest, I planned on giving it to her anyway. Lord knows she deserves it. Batching them out, it's not going to take me any longer to make one more. Practicing stewardship isn't always about giving money. Sometimes it's about giving of your time, skills, or talents. I hope they do well at the sale, and maybe the church can raise a little bit of money with them.
Side by side. The one on the left is the one that I gave my wife for Christmas. The one on the right is the one I just finished. Which one do you want?
I want the one on the right.
Okay, well, let's make it official. Merry Christmas. It's not Christmas time. Merry Christmas anyway. Looks like I'm putting that one up for sale on the left.